37,000 feet above the Atlantic. Olivia Sterling's champagne trembled in her hand, not from turbulence but from the three men in black suits who'd been watching her since takeoff. She leaned toward the exhausted single father in 2B, her voice barely a whisper. "They're here for me." What she didn't know was that Michael Harris, the man bouncing a sleepy 7-year-old on his lap, had died 3 years ago in Prague. At least that's what the file said. In 15 seconds, when the first gun cleared leather and oxygen masks dropped like guillotine blades, she'd learned that some legends don't stay buried, they just learn to make pancakes. Welcome to the flight that changed everything. Stay with me until the end, and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story flies. The Boeing 787 sliced through darkness at Mach 0.85. A silver needle threading clouds somewhere between Paris and the promise of Manhattan. Business class hummed with that particular frequency of wealth, the soft rustle of merino wool blankets, the crystalline clink of ice in Waterford tumblers, the muted glow of laptop screens, casting blue shadows across faces too important to sleep. Olivia Sterling sat in 2A, the window seat that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. 29 years old, youngest CEO in Vail Group's 80-year history, and right now she felt every eye in the cabin like a physical weight. The financial press had been brutal about her emergency appointment after her father's stroke. "Nepotism in Prada," one headline sneered. "Little girl lost in the corner office," chimed another. She'd worn armor tonight, a charcoal Armani suit that whispered power diamond studs that caught light like tiny declarations of war. Her ash blonde hair was pulled back so tight it made her temples ache. Everything about her screamed control. Everything except her hands. They shook as she raised the champagne flute just enough that the bubbles danced erratically against crystal. She set it down quickly, pressing her palms flat against the leather armrest. "Get it together, Olivia." Across the aisle in 2C, a silver-haired executive was already snoring mouth open. Wall Street Journal spread across his chest like a shroud. Behind her, someone was watching a movie. She could hear the tinny whisper of dialogue through expensive headphones. Normal. Everything was supposed to be normal, except for the three men. She'd clocked them during boarding old habit from her father's security briefings. "Always know your exits, Liv. Always know who doesn't belong." The first one, bald with a neck like a fire hydrant, had taken 7D. Too muscular for the cheap suit, too alert for the business casual pretense. The second, thin and angular, sat in 12F. His eyes doing steady sweeps of the cabin every 90 seconds. And the third, Korean she thought, or Japanese, had positioned himself in the rear galley area, nursing a coffee he never actually drank. They weren't looking at each other. That's what made it worse. Professionals never looked at each other. And they were all looking at her. "Ma'am." The flight attendant appeared beside her, young and bright-eyed with that practiced airline smile. "Can I refresh your champagne?" "No." Olivia's voice came out sharper than intended. "No, thank you." The attendant's smile flickered there and gone, replaced by something else. Concern, fear. Her eyes darted toward the rear of the cabin just for a microsecond before she caught herself. "Are you feeling all right? You look a bit pale." "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. The attendant's hands were shaking too, worse than Olivia's. And there was something in her eyes, something that looked like pity mixed with terror. The attendant leaned in closer, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "If you need anything, please use your call button." Then she was gone, moving up the aisle too quickly, her professional composure cracking at the edges. Olivia's heart was hammering now. She pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. A text to her head of security, Marcus Chen, Flight 4127. 3 hostiles. Confirm threat assessment. She hit send. Nothing happened. The message sat there, unsent, a little spinning wheel of digital futility. No signal. That was normal at altitude, right? Except she'd been texting fine during taxi, even after takeoff. She tried again. Same spinning wheel. They're jamming communications. The thought arrived with the cold clarity of nightmare logic. The kind where you're running but your legs won't move, screaming, but no sound comes out. She forced herself to breathe, to think like her father had taught her. Assess. Adapt. Act. Assess. 3 visible hostiles, possibly more. Communications down. Flight attendant scared. Approximately 6 hours to New York. Adapt. She was trapped in a metal tube 7 miles above the ocean. No help coming. No way to call for help. Act. What? What could a CEO with an MBA and a Pilates addiction possibly do against professional killers? Her eyes drifted to the seat beside her. 2B held a contradiction. Michael Harris looked like every exhausted parent who'd ever struggled through an international flight, rumpled blue button-down with sleeves rolled to the elbows, faded jeans, scuffed Nikes that had seen better days. Dark hair shot through with premature gray stubble that suggested he'd skipped shaving this morning, shoulders broad, but slumped with the particular fatigue of single parenthood. And in his lap, sleeping against his chest with the absolute trust of childhood, was Maya. 7 years old, wearing a purple hoodie with a unicorn on it, her dark curls spilling across her father's arm. She clutched a battered stuffed rabbit, its ear nearly loved off, and her breathing was deep and even, the sleep of someone who felt completely safe. Olivia had noticed them during boarding. Hard not to. Maya had been chattering excitedly about the plane, about seeing Grandma in New York, about whether clouds felt like cotton candy. Michael had been patient, endlessly patient, answering every question while wrestling an overstuffed backpack into the overhead compartment. They'd seemed so normal, so beautifully, enviably normal. Now watching Michael's hand rest protectively on his daughter's back, watching the way his eyes had gone soft and distant in that 1,000-yard stare of parental devotion, Olivia felt something crack in her chest. They're going to kill me, and this little girl is going to watch. The thought was so clear, so certain that it took her breath away. Michael must have sensed her staring because his eyes shifted, meeting hers. They were gray, she noticed. Storm gray. And there was something in them, just for a second, that didn't match the rumpled dad aesthetic. Something sharp and assessing and old. "You okay?" he asked quietly, careful not to wake Maya. Olivia's voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "I'm fine." His eyes narrowed slightly. "You don't look fine. You look like you're about to pass out." "Just nervous flyer. On a 787, smoothest ride in the sky." He shifted Maya slightly, adjusting her weight. "Want me to tell you some statistics? Safest form of travel, you know. You're more likely to—" "I know the statistics." Olivia cut him off more harshly than intended. He held up one hand in surrender, a small smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Fair enough. Just trying to help." They sat in silence for a moment. The cabin lights had been dimmed for the overnight flight, creating islands of light around reading passengers. Most people were sleeping or trying to. The hum of the engines was a steady white noise, almost soothing. Almost. Olivia watched the bald man in 7D stand up, stretching casually, and begin walking toward the front galley. His trajectory would take him right past her seat. Her pulse spiked. "Mr. Harris," she started. "Michael," he corrected automatically. Then, catching something in her tone, "What's wrong? Do you—" She hesitated. "How do you tell a stranger that you think you're about to be killed, that you might get him and his daughter killed too? Do you notice anything odd about this flight?" His expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. That sharpness again surfacing like a shark fin in calm water. "Odd how—" "The man in 7D. Don't look," she added quickly as Michael started to turn his head. "Gray suit, bald, built like a linebacker. He's been watching me since we boarded." "Okay," Michael said slowly, His voice had changed, dropped half an octave into something flat and professional. Anyone else? So he did see it. 12F, thin dark hair, and there's a third in the rear galley. Michael's hand, the one not supporting Maya, moved almost imperceptibly to his daughter's back, adjusting her position so she was more centered on his chest, more protected. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. "I'm—" Olivia started to give her standard response, but something in his eyes stopped her. This man, whoever he really was, would see through corporate platitudes. "I'm Olivia Sterling, CEO of Vale Group, and I think someone wants me dead." Vale Group. Michael's eyes did a rapid calculation. "The tech conglomerate. You just closed that deal with Nexus Industries. 2 days ago, hostile takeover. We beat out Damien Cross." Cross. Michael's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Damien Cross doesn't lose gracefully." "You know him." "I know of him. Corporate raider, right? Leveraged buyouts, asset-stripping reputation for aggressive tactics." That was putting it mildly. Cross had built his empire on the corpses of companies he'd gutted. But the rumors that followed him were darker whispers of blackmail coercion, people who'd opposed him ending up in convenient accidents. The bald man from 7D passed their row, his eyes lingering on Olivia for just a second too long. Not threatening. Not yet. Just marking territory. Michael tracked him with peripheral vision, never moving his head. "How many total?" he murmured. "3 that I've confirmed. Could be more." "And you're sure they're hostile?" "The flight attendant is terrified. My phone's jammed. And—" She took a shaky breath. "And I can feel it. You know when something's wrong, when the air changes." Michael nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know." Maya stirred against his chest, making a small sound. Both adults froze, waiting. The little girl settled back into sleep, her hand tightening on her rabbit. "Listen to me very carefully," Michael said, his voice barely audible over the engine noise. "When I tell you to move, you move. You don't think, you don't hesitate, you just do exactly what I say. Understand?" Olivia's mouth went dry. "What are you? Who are you?" "Right now I'm a dad on a plane, and I'm going to make sure my daughter lands safely." His eyes met hers, and for a second she saw something ancient and cold swimming in those gray depths. "You being in the seat next to me, that's just bad luck. For them." "I don't understand." "You don't need to. You just need to trust me." He paused. "Can you do that?" Every instinct screamed that this was insane. This was a random passenger, a tired single father who couldn't possibly. But he'd spotted the watchers without being told where to look. He'd assessed the situation with the kind of calm that came from training, not panic. And there was something in the way he held himself, even slouched in an airplane seat with a sleeping child. A coiled readiness that reminded her of her father's Marines. "Yes," she whispered. "I can trust you." "Good." Michael's hand moved slowly, casually to the backpack stuffed under the seat in front of him. "Now I'm going to need you to do something for me. In about 30 seconds, you're going to press your call button. When the flight attendant comes, you're going to ask for some water and an aspirin. You're going to tell her you have a headache. Can you do that? Why? Because I need to see how she reacts. I need to know if she's with them or just scared." Olivia's hands were shaking again, but she nodded. 28 seconds later, her call button chimed softly. The young flight attendant appeared almost instantly, too instantly, her smile strained. "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry to bother you, but I have a terrible headache. Could I get some water and aspirin?" The attendant's eyes did that flicker again toward the rear of the cabin. Fear, definitely fear, but also calculation. "Of course, let me just—" She leaned in closer, and Olivia caught the scent of her perfume, something floral and desperate. "Ma'am, I need you to know that whatever happens, stay in your seat. Don't try to be a hero. They promised if everyone cooperates, nobody gets hurt. The words hit like a physical blow. "They got to you," Olivia breathed. The attendant's eyes filled with tears. "They have my sister. They showed me a photo. She was at her apartment making dinner, and they were inside with her. They said if I helped them, if I made sure you didn't cause problems, they'd let her go." "Oh God. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I can't. I have to." "It's okay." Michael's voice cut in gentle but firm. "We understand. Just bring the water and aspirin. Act normal. Don't give them any reason to think you told us anything." The attendant nodded frantically, tears spilling down her cheeks, and hurried away. Olivia turned to Michael, her heart hammering. "They have her sister. They've been planning this since before we boarded." "Yeah." His eyes were doing constant sweeps, now tracking movement throughout the cabin. "This is a professional operation, which means they're on a timeline." "What kind of timeline?" "The kind where they make their move soon before we get too close to New York, before ATC gets suspicious." He shifted Maya again so gently that she didn't even stir. "How much do you think Cross wants you dead?" "Enough to orchestrate this." "Then he's not here to kill you." Olivia blinked. "What?" "Think about it. You die on a transatlantic flight, that's headlines. Investigation. Your company's stock craters, sure, but there's publicity scrutiny. Cross is smarter than that." Michael's voice was clinical now, analytical. "He wants you alive. Wants to extract you, leverage you. Force you to sign over the Nexus deal maybe. Or use you as a bargaining chip. And if I don't cooperate? Then they hurt people until you do. Starting with passengers. Maybe with..." His eyes dropped to Maya. "Maybe with kids. Make it real. Make it urgent." The flight attendant returned with a bottle of water and 2 aspirin. Her hands trembling so badly, she nearly dropped them. Olivia accepted them with a murmured thanks, watching the young woman hurry away. She didn't take the aspirin. Didn't trust them. "So, what do we do?" she asked. Michael was quiet for a long moment, his hand moving in slow circles on Maya's back, a father's automatic comfort. When he spoke, his voice was distant, like he was remembering something from a long time ago. "There's a protocol for hostage situations on aircraft. Hijack code is 7500. Flight crew squawks it to ATC emergency response, mobilizes F-16s scramble if needed." He paused. "But if they've compromised the crew, that won't happen. We're on our own." "You sound like you know a lot about hijack protocols." "I read a lot," he said blandly. Liar, Olivia thought, but a useful liar. "Michael, whoever you really are, I need to know. Can you actually help? Or are we both just pretending because it's better than admitting we're helpless?" His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something raw there. Something human beneath the tactical assessment. "I can help," he said quietly. "But I need you to understand something. If I do this, if I become what I need to be, to get us out of this, there's no going back. My daughter will see. She'll know. And she's the only reason I stopped being that person in the first place." "What person?" Before he could answer, the cabin lights flickered. Just once, but enough. And then from the rear of the cabin came a sound that turned Olivia's blood to ice. A scream, cut short. The bald man from 7D was standing now, moving toward them with purpose. The thin man from 12F had materialized in the aisle behind him. And from the front galley, a 4th figure emerged, someone Olivia hadn't even spotted. Asian female moving with the fluid grace of a dancer or a killer. 3 had become 4. Michael's hand tightened on Maya's back. "Don't wake up, baby girl," he whispered. "Please don't wake up." The bald man stopped 2 rows ahead of them, blocking the aisle. His hand disappeared into his jacket. "Ms. Sterling," he said, his voice accented Russian, maybe Czech. "You're going to come with us now, nice and quiet, and nobody has to get hurt." The cabin had gone silent. The hum of the engines suddenly seemed deafening. Passengers who'd been sleeping were sitting up, confused, frightened. The movie watchers had pulled off their headphones. "And if I refuse?" Olivia heard herself ask. The man smiled. It was the worst smile she'd ever seen, empty of everything except professional interest. "Then we start with the child." His eyes dropped to Maya. And that's when Olivia Sterling, who'd never thrown a punch in her life, who'd been raised on boarding schools and country clubs and corporate strategy meetings, made a decision that would change everything. She looked at Michael and whispered 3 words that detonated a fuse she didn't even know existed. "They're here for me." Michael Harris heard those 3 words, and something ancient woke up inside him. Something he'd buried under 3 years of bedtime stories and scraped knees and parent-teacher conferences. Something that had a different name, a different face, a different set of rules about what lines could be crossed. For a heartbeat, maybe less, he was perfectly still. Then his voice came out flat, dead calm, the way it used to sound in briefing rooms in places that didn't exist on any map. 15 seconds, he said quietly, not to Olivia, not to the bald man blocking the aisle, but to himself. "That's how long you have before this goes sideways." The bald man's smile widened. Big talk from a man with a kid in his lap. 14. "Michael." Olivia started, her voice tight with panic. 13. "Don't talk, just listen." His hand moved to Maya's head, cradling it against his chest. His other arm locked around her waist. "When I move, you drop into the footwell. You stay there. You don't look up until I tell you. 12. The thin man from 12F had stopped 4 rows back, his hand inside his jacket. The Asian woman from the galley was advancing from the front, cutting off any escape route. A triangle formation. Professional. Deadly. 11. "You really want to do this?" Michael's eyes locked on the bald man. "In front of all these people, all these cameras." He jerked his chin toward the cabin ceiling. "Those little dome security feeds go straight to the cockpit, straight to the airline servers. Right now you're just suspicious, but the second you pull that gun, you're on every intelligence agency's radar before we hit the Atlantic median." The bald man hesitated. Just for a second. 10. "There's still a way out of this where nobody dies, where you walk away, where my daughter doesn't have nightmares for the rest of her life." "Your daughter," the bald man said slowly. "We'll see what happens to people who don't cooperate, and then Ms. Sterling will understand that we are not making requests." 9. "Last chance." Maya stirred against Michael's chest, her small hand tightening on her rabbit. Her eyes fluttered open, confused, still half-dreaming. "Daddy!" Everything in Michael's chest seized. "It's okay, baby. Close your eyes. Daddy's got you." 8. His voice had changed, now dropped into something that made the hair on Olivia's arms stand up. "You just made your choice." The bald man's hand came out of his jacket. Black polymer, Sig Sauer P226, Michael's training automatically cataloged. Suppressor already attached. Professional grade. The gun rose, angling not at Michael, not at Olivia, but at a middle-aged woman across the aisle who'd woken up to find herself in a nightmare. She whimpered, hands coming up automatically. 7. "Wait." Olivia half stood. "I'll go with you. Just don't." "Sit down, Ms. Sterling," the bald man said calmly. "You'll come regardless. This is just a demonstration of—" Michael moved. It happened faster than Olivia could process. 1 second, Maya was cradled against her father's chest. The next, she was being transferred to Olivia's lap with impossible gentleness, even as Michael was already rotating up and out of his seat. "Hold her," he commanded, and then he was in the aisle. The bald man swung the gun toward him, but Michael's hand was already there, catching the weapon's slide, twisting his whole body, becoming a lever. The physics were beautiful textbook disarmament, the kind that only worked if you'd practiced it 10,000 times until muscle memory overrode survival instinct. The gun came free. But the bald man was good too. His other hand lashed out a palm strike aimed at Michael's throat. Michael rolled with it, absorbing the impact on his shoulder, and suddenly they were in close quarters, Combat in an airplane aisle surrounded by screaming passengers. The thin man from 12F was moving now, drawing his own weapon. Michael saw it in peripheral vision. Couldn't stop the disarm to address it. So he did something else. He yanked the bald man around, using him as a shield, just as the thin man fired. The sound was wrong, not the Hollywood bang, but a harsh cough, the suppressor doing its work. The bald man jerked his eyes, going wide with shock and betrayal. His partner had just shot him. Michael was already moving, using the dying man's weight as momentum, throwing him backward into the thin man. Both went down in a tangle of limbs. The Asian woman from the front galley had her gun out, now professional stance, aiming center mass at Michael's chest. "Don't move," she barked. Michael froze, hands partially raised, the bald man's Sig Sauer dangling from one finger by the trigger guard. Non-threatening, surrendering. Except his eyes were doing calculations. Distance, angles, cover. His right foot was positioned exactly 6 inches from the bald man's dropped phone. His weight was distributed 60-40, favoring his back leg, ready to explode in any direction. "Impressive," a new voice said from the front of the cabin. "Very impressive. I'd heard the reports were exaggerated, but apparently not." A man emerged from a first class, moving with the casual confidence of someone who owned the situation. Late 40s, silver threading through dark hair, custom suit that probably cost more than Michael earned in a month when he was still earning a salary. Handsome in that particular way of men who'd weaponized their looks into boardroom leverage. Olivia made a sound like she'd been punched. "Cross." Damian Cross smiled, and it was every bit as empty as his hired guns had been. "Ms. Sterling, I'm sorry we have to meet again under such circumstances. I really did hope you'd be more reasonable about the Nexus deal." "You're insane. You can't just what? Take what should have been mine. You stole that deal, Olivia. Your father's money, your family's connections, none of that was earned. I built my empire from nothing, and you blocked me because of legacy, because of name recognition." His eyes hardened. "So yes, I can. I am. And you're going to sign over your controlling shares, or I'm going to turn this aircraft into an object lesson about why you don't cross me." Michael was still frozen, still playing surrendered, but his mind was racing. Cross. Damian Cross. The name triggered something, pulled up a file from the compartmentalized section of his brain labeled Former Life. Cross had been on a watch list. Not CIA, not NSA, something deeper. The kind of list that people like Michael used to work from when problems needed to become non-problems. "You're the money," Michael said quietly. Cross's attention shifted to him for the first time, really looking, assessing. "Excuse me. The money behind the Prague operation. The leveraged buyout of Kovac Industries that went sideways when the CEO died in that convenient car accident." Michael's voice was conversational, almost friendly. "Except it wasn't an accident. And you weren't just buying companies. You were buying influence. Weapons tech. Black market access." The cabin had gone silent except for Maya's soft crying against Olivia's shoulder. Passengers were frozen, watching this impossible conversation between a rumpled dad and a corporate titan that felt like it was happening in a different language. Cross's smile never wavered, but something changed in his eyes. Recognition and calculation. "Do I know you?" "No," Michael said. "But I know you. I know that Prague wasn't your only play. There was Belgrade, Cairo, that mess in the Horn of Africa that got 12 contractors killed." He paused. "And I know that you use cutouts, shell companies, proxies. You're never directly involved. So the fact that you're here on this plane, personally supervising..." He let it hang. Cross studied him for a long moment. Then slowly his smile transformed into something genuine, something delighted. "My God, I know who you are, or rather, who you were." He turned to the Asian woman still holding her gun on Michael. "Do you know who you're pointing that at, Lee? This is him. This is the Gray Fox." The gun wavered, just slightly. Michael felt something cold slide through his chest. That name. That goddamn name. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said flatly. "Please." "The way you move the textbook disarm. And that knowledge, very specific knowledge about operations that were never officially connected to me." Cross was enjoying this now, warming to his subject like a professor who'd found a prize student. Shadow Wolf. The ghost of Prague. The man who didn't exist but somehow ended every problem that needed ending. You had a dozen names. But the file I saw, the real file, the one that cost 7 figures to access on the dark web, that one called you Gray Fox. Olivia's arms had tightened around Maya. The little girl had stopped crying, sensing something wrong in a way children always do, some primal awareness of predators. "Daddy." Maya's voice was so small. "Close your eyes, baby," Michael said, not taking his eyes off Cross. "This is just a bad dream." "Is it?" Cross stepped closer, hands in his pockets, utterly relaxed. "Because I think it's a very good dream. For me, anyway. See, the Gray Fox died 3 years ago. Prague again, poetic really. A bridge, gunfire, a body that went into the Vltava and never came out." He paused. "Except here you are, on a plane, with a daughter, playing house." "You're wrong." "Am I?" "Then prove it. Show me a driver's license, a passport, some proof that Michael Harris from where was it, Cleveland, Cincinnati, actually exists." Cross's smile sharpened. "Or we can skip the charade and acknowledge that you're a dead man trying to pretend he's alive." The thin man had gotten back to his feet, stepping over his partner's body with professional indifference. 3 guns now. All pointed at Michael, and Cross weaponless, but somehow more dangerous than all of them. Michael's jaw tightened. Options were narrowing. He could take 1, maybe 2 of them before they got him, but not all 3. And stray bullets in a pressurized cabin. Maya was right there, Olivia, holding her, both of them in the line of fire. "Here's what's going to happen," Cross continued. "Ms. Sterling is going to come with us. We've arranged a little detour. The captain is very concerned about a mechanical issue that requires an emergency landing. Greenland's Kangerlussuaq Airport, very remote, very convenient. And while we're there, Olivia is going to sign some papers, transfer some assets, make some calls." He looked at Michael. "And you're going to let her, because if you don't, if you do anything to interfere, I'm going to make sure everyone on this plane knows exactly who you are. And then I'm going to make sure every intelligence agency that wants you dead knows where to find you, and your daughter." The threat landed like a physical blow. Michael's hands lowered slowly. The gun he'd taken from the bald man, he let it dangle, non-threatening, before setting it carefully on the empty seat beside him. "There we go," Cross said softly. "See, we can be reasonable. We can all walk away from this. Well," he glanced at the bald man's body. "Most of us." Passengers were pulling out phones now, trying to record, trying to call for help, but the jamming was still active, nothing going in or out. "The cockpit," Olivia said suddenly. "The crew will know. They'll squawk a hijack code. F-16s will scramble. The crew is cooperating." Cross interrupted. "I showed them what happens to pilots who don't cooperate. The captain of a 737 over the Indian Ocean, for instance. Very tragic. Disappeared without a trace." His voice was pleasant, conversational, like he was discussing the weather. "Besides, we're not hijacking anything. This is a legitimate emergency landing. Mechanical issues. Very concerning. The captain will file all the right codes, say all the right things. And by the time anyone realizes something is wrong, we'll be wheels down in Greenland with Olivia signing papers." Michael was doing math. 20 minutes to Greenland, maybe 30, depending on current position. Once they landed, once Cross had Olivia off the plane, there was no getting her back. Not without a full tactical team, and those took hours to mobilize. But Cross had made a mistake. A small one. Maybe not even a mistaken assumption. He assumed Michael cared about exposure more than he cared about what was right. And 3 years ago, he would have been correct. 3 years ago, the Gray Fox would have calculated odds, assessed risk, and let Olivia Sterling become another casualty in the endless war between people with power and people with more power. But 3 years ago, the Gray Fox didn't have a daughter sleeping in a purple unicorn hoodie. "Mr. Cross," Michael said quietly, "I need you to understand something." "What's that?" "You're right about who I was, but you're wrong about who I am now." He looked at Maya, still pressed against Olivia's chest. Her eyes squeezed shut like Michael had told her. "I stopped being that person because I wanted to be someone she could be proud of. Someone who didn't solve problems with violence. Someone who made pancakes and tied shoes and showed up to dance recitals." How touching. But here's the thing about being a father. Michael's eyes came back to Cross, and there was something in them now that made the Asian woman Lee take an involuntary step backward. You don't get to choose when to protect your kid. You don't get to decide that this threat is acceptable, but that one isn't. You protect them from everything, even if it means becoming the monster again. "You're outnumbered and outgunned," Cross pointed out. "And you've got civilians everywhere. One stray bullet hits that fuel line running through the cabin ceiling, and we all die." "That's not a fuel line," Michael said. "It's the air conditioning duct. The fuel lines run through the wings and center tank, completely isolated from the passenger cabin. Basic 787 architecture. You'd know that if you actually knew anything about aircraft instead of just throwing money at people to do your dirty work." Cross's smile flickered. "And you're not outgunning me. You've got 3 pistols with maybe 15 rounds each plus whatever's in the thin guy's backup piece. Maybe 60 rounds total. I can see from here that Lee's using hollow points, good for minimizing overpenetration, bad for sustained firefight. Your boy with the cheap suit is carrying a Glock 19, which means he's got standard ball ammunition 17-round mag. And you—" Michael's eyes dropped across his right pocket, where the fabric hung just slightly wrong. "You've got something small. Beretta Tomcat maybe. 32 caliber, 8 rounds. Gentleman's gun, not meant for this kind of work." The cabin was absolutely silent now. Every passenger, every crew member, frozen. "Here's what you don't have," Michael continued. "You don't have training, real training. The kind where they break you down and build you back up as a weapon. You don't have experience. You've never been in a gunfight where the other guy was shooting back, and you sure as hell don't have what I have." "Which is—" Michael looked at his daughter, still trembling against Olivia, and something in his expression shifted. From resignation to something harder. Something final. A reason to win. He moved before Cross could respond, not toward the guns. That's what they expected. Instead, he dropped straight down, hand shooting out to grab the bald man's dropped pistol from where it had skidded under the seat. Lee fired too late, tracking where he'd been instead of where he was going. The bullet punched through the headrest, and Michael was already rolling, coming up in a combat crouch behind the seats. The thin man swung his Glock around, firing twice. Both shots went wide as passengers screamed and dropped. Michael returned fire-controlled double-tap center mass. The thin man went down. Lee was repositioning professional, not panicking. She had the angle, had him pinned. Michael couldn't move without exposing himself. So he didn't move. Instead, he called out, voice projecting over the chaos, "Federal Air Marshal. Anyone on this aircraft who's law enforcement or military now would be a great time." It was a bluff. Maybe. But from row 14, a heavy-set man in a polo shirt stood up, pulling a badge from his pocket. Off-duty NYPD Detective Rodriguez. And from 22, a younger woman, Air Force Security Forces. And just like that, the dynamic shifted. Cross's face went pale. "Sit down. All of you sit down, or what?" The NYPD detective was moving forward now, using the seats as cover. "You'll shoot a cop. You'll shoot military. You think you're walking away from this now?" Lee's gun was wavering between Michael and the advancing detective. Too many targets. The math had changed. "We have a dead man switch," Cross said, suddenly pulling a device from his jacket. Small black, a single red button under his thumb. "Decompression device. You shoot me. My thumb comes off this button and we all die. Everyone froze. Michael studied the device from his position. Could be real. Could be a bluff. Cross would need multiple devices to really breach the hull strategically placed, professionally installed. But even a partial decompression, even a small explosive device could cause chaos. Could hurt people. Could hurt Maya. You're bluffing, Michael said, but he didn't sound certain. Am I? Cross smiled. Do you want to find out? How lucky are you feeling? Gray Fox. How much of a gambler? The aircraft shuddered slightly. Normal turbulence, but in this moment, it felt like an omen. Michael's finger was on the trigger. One shot, center mass, Cross goes down. But if that device was real... Dad! Maya's voice, small and terrified, cut through everything. Dad, I'm scared. And Michael Harris, who'd faced down terrorists and warlords and people far scarier than Damian Cross, felt his hands start to shake. Because his daughter was scared. And he'd promised himself when she was born that she'd never have to be afraid. That he'd build a world where she could feel safe. Some promises were impossible to keep. It's okay, baby girl, he said, not taking his eyes off Cross. Everything's going to be okay. Touching, Cross said. Really, but we're wasting time. So here's my final offer. Ms. Sterling comes with us, right now, voluntarily, and in exchange, I don't press this button. I don't expose who you really are. And when we land in Greenland, everyone walks away. Olivia signs some papers, transfers some assets, and then she's free to go. No one else gets hurt. You're lying, Olivia said from her seat, still holding Maya. You'll kill me the second I sign. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm definitely killing everyone if you don't come with me right now. His thumb moved fractionally on the button. 10 seconds, Olivia. Then we find out if I'm bluffing. 9, 8. Stop. Olivia stood carefully, transferring Maya back to her seat. I'll come. Just don't hurt anyone else. Olivia, no. Michael started. It's my company, my fight, not yours. She looked at him, really looked at him, and her eyes were clear, resolved. Take care of Maya. Get her to New York, and tell her some fights aren't worth winning. She stepped into the aisle. Cross grabbed her arm, pulling her close, the dead man switch still visible in his other hand. Smart choice. Lee, secure the marshal and the others. We're going to the cockpit. Wait, Michael said. Everyone turned. He was standing now, gun lowered but not dropped. His whole body language shifted into something different. Something cold and clinical and absolutely certain. I need to know something, he said to Cross. Before you go, before you take her, I need to know if that device is real. Cross's smile was triumphant. Does it matter? To me, no. Michael's voice was flat. But it matters to you. Because if it's real, then you've actually got leverage. You've actually got a way out of this. But if it's fake, if you're bluffing, then you're just a man with a button and a lot of hope. You willing to bet lives on that analysis? I'm willing to bet yours. The cabin seemed to hold its breath. Cross's thumb moved on the button. You think I won't do it? You think I won't kill everyone here just to prove a point? I think, Michael said slowly, that a real dead man switch requires dead man redundancy. Multiple triggers, fail-safes, and I think you've had, 20 minutes to plant actual explosives. Maybe less, depending on when you convince the crew to cooperate. That's not enough time for a proper installation. Maybe you've got something small, flashbang, smoke canister, something to create panic. But hull breach decompression. He shook his head. You're not that prepared. This wasn't plan A. This was you scrambling because Olivia beat you and you couldn't handle losing. Cross's face had gone very still. You're guessing, he said. I'm calculating, Michael corrected. And my calculation says you've got a 40% chance of having a real device. which means I've got a 60% chance of being able to put a bullet in your head before you can prove me wrong. Those aren't good odds. They're good enough. Michael raised his gun. Cross's thumb moved on the button, and nothing happened. For a heartbeat, everyone waited for the explosion, the decompression, the end. Nothing. Cross looked at the device in his hand, confused, betrayed. He pressed the button again. Again. Nothing. "I'll be damned," Michael said quietly. "I was bluffing. I actually thought you might have something." Then he fired. The shot took Cross in the shoulder, deliberate, precise, not lethal. Cross dropped screaming, the useless device clattering away. Lee spun, bringing her gun around, but Detective Rodriguez was already on her, tackling her to the ground. The Air Force woman grabbed the dropped weapons, and just like that, it was over. Michael lowered his gun, hands shaking with adrenaline crash, and turned to look at his daughter. Maya was staring at him with wide, uncomprehending eyes. And in that look, Michael saw everything he'd been afraid of. Every nightmare. Every reason he'd walked away from his old life. She'd seen him shoot a man. She'd seen him become the Gray Fox. "Baby," he started. But Maya scrambled out of her seat, running to him, wrapping her arms around his legs and sobbing. "You saved everyone," she whispered against his jeans. "You saved the nice lady. You saved me." And Michael Harris, who'd done terrible things in service of his country, who'd crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed, who'd died and been reborn as someone softer and kinder, dropped to his knees and held his daughter and tried very hard not. The cabin erupted into chaos. Passengers who'd been frozen in terror suddenly found their voices screaming, crying, some standing and trying to rush toward exits that had nowhere to go. The flight attendant who'd been compromised was sobbing into her hands, her body shaking with relief and guilt. Detective Rodriguez had Lee pinned face down in the aisle, zip ties appearing from somewhere to bind her wrists. Michael held Maya tighter, his face pressed into her hair, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, the smell of normalcy, of bedtime routines and cartoon marathons, and everything he'd fought so hard to build. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry you had to see that." "But you stopped the bad man," Maya said, pulling back to look at him with those wide brown eyes that were so much like her mother's. "You protected everyone. That's what heroes do." Heroes. The word landed like shrapnel in his chest. "Baby, I'm not—" He stopped, because how did you explain to a 7-year-old that heroes didn't exist, that the man she was calling a hero had done things that would give her nightmares, that the Gray Fox wasn't some defender of justice, but a government asset who'd crossed borders and laws and moral lines, because someone in a suit said it was necessary? Olivia appeared beside them, dropping to her knees, her hand finding Michael's shoulder. Her touch was gentle grounding. "You saved my life," she said quietly. "Both of you did. Maya, you were so brave holding still like your dad told you." Maya beamed at the praise, and Michael felt something crack further in his chest. His daughter thought this was courage, thought this was something to be proud of. Cross was groaning on the floor, blood spreading across his expensive shirt. The shoulder wound was clean. Michael had made sure of that, muscle memory overriding panic, but it hurt like hell, which was exactly the point. "Somebody help him," a passenger called out. The Air Force woman. She'd said her name was Sergeant Chen, was already moving forward with a first aid kit. "I've got medical training. Sir, I need you to stay still." "This isn't over," Cross hissed through clenched teeth, his eyes finding Michael's. "You think shooting me changes anything they know about you now? Everyone knows. I'll make sure of it." Michael stood slowly, settling Maya back in her seat. "Stay here with Miss Sterling, okay? I need to talk to this man." "Okay, Daddy." Maya clutched her rabbit tighter. "But come back quick." "I will, baby girl." He crossed to where Cross lay standing over him, with an expression that made the injured man flinch. Michael crouched down, voice low enough that only Cross could hear. "You're going to keep your mouth shut about who I am. You're going to tell your lawyers, your associates, everyone who'll listen that you made a mistake. That I'm not the gray fox. That you were confused, injured, saying things that weren't true. Or what? Cross spat. You'll kill me in front of all these witnesses. No, Michael said softly. I'll let you live, and then I'll make sure every intelligence agency that ever used me knows exactly where you've been getting your information. I'll explain how you accessed files that were supposed to be burned, how you knew about operations that never officially existed. He paused. They don't like leaks, Mr. Cross. They don't like people who trade in classified information, and they have much worse ways of making people disappear than I ever did. Cross's face went pale. You're bluffing. Am I want to test that theory because I've got nothing left to lose? You already exposed me. You already threatened my daughter. So either we both walk away from this quiet or we both burn. Your choice. The silence stretched between them, broken only by Sergeant Chen's efficient movements as she field-dressed the shoulder wound. Finally, Cross spoke. What do you want? I want you to forget you ever saw me. I want you to drop whatever play you had planned for Ms. Sterling. And I want you to disappear into whatever hole billionaires crawl into when they fail. Michael's voice hardened. And if I ever hear that you've come near my daughter, near Olivia, near anyone on this plane, I will stop being the man who makes pancakes and become the man you read about in those expensive files. Do we understand each other? Cross nodded slowly. Pain and defeat written across his features. Michael stood turning away. And that's when the lights went out. Complete darkness. Emergency lighting should have kicked in immediately, but nothing. Just the sudden absence of every electronic system, the cabin plunging into absolute black, except for the faint glow of exit signs running on battery backup. Daddy! Maya's scream cut through the confusion. Michael was moving before conscious thought muscle memory overriding the darkness. 3 steps to where he'd left her, his hands finding her shoulders. I'm here. I've got you. What's happening? Olivia's voice close by, tight with controlled panic. I don't know. Michael's mind was racing. Total power loss. Not possible on a 787. There were redundant systems backup generators. Unless a sound. Soft. Almost inaudible under the screaming passengers. Footsteps. Moving with purpose through the darkness. Everyone down! Michael shouted. Get down now! Muzzle flash lit up the cabin like lightning. 3 shots from the rear galley aimed not at Michael, but at the overhead panels. Sparks showered down, and Michael realized with sick certainty what was happening. There was a 4th operative, someone they'd missed, and they were systematically destroying the electrical systems. Rodriguez, Michael called into the darkness. You still armed? Yeah. The detective's voice came from somewhere in the middle of the cabin. Can't see shit, though. Sergeant Chen. Here I've got the weapons we confiscated. Another muzzle flash. This time Michael tracked it, his combat training painting a mental map of the cabin. The shooter was moving forward, using the darkness as cover, eliminating threats. Michael's hand found the Sig Sauer he'd tucked into his waistband. Olivia, I need you to take Maya and get into the footwell. Press flat and don't move. Michael, you can't see. I don't need to see, just move, now. He felt them shifting, heard the rustle of movement. Good. They were out of the line of fire. Michael closed his eyes, counterintuitive but necessary, removed the visual input his brain was desperately trying to process, and focused on sound instead. Breathing. Footsteps. The slight scrape of fabric against seatbacks. There. Row 8. Moving forward. He fired twice, aiming at the sound. A grunt of pain. Not a kill shot, but a hit. Return fire came immediately, 3 rounds that punched through the seat inches from where Michael had been standing. He'd already moved, rolling across the aisle, coming up behind the seats on the opposite side. Give it up, he shouted. You're outnumbered and outgunned. A voice came back, accented Eastern European, maybe Ukrainian. You killed my brother, the bald one. You think I care about numbers? Revenge, personal, which made this operative more dangerous, not less. People fighting for a paycheck could be reasoned with. People fighting for blood couldn't. Your brother made a choice, Michael called back. He pointed a gun at civilians. At children. Whatever happens after that, he brought on himself. You talk like you're righteous, like you're better. The voice was moving, circling. But I know who you are, Cross told us. The Gray Fox, the Butcher of Belgrade, the man who killed 17 people in one night because someone gave the order. The words hit harder than bullets. Because they were true. Maya's small voice in the darkness. Daddy, what's he talking about? Michael's heart clenched. Nothing, baby, just lies. Not lies, the operative said, and there was satisfaction in his voice now. Satisfaction at drawing blood. Your father is a killer little girl. He's killed more people than you have years. He's... Michael fired blindly toward the voice rage overriding tactics. The operative laughed. There he is. There's the real you. Detective Rodriguez's voice cut through. I've got a bead on the exit signs. He's between rows 5 and 6 moving toward first class. Don't shoot, Michael commanded. Too many civilians in crossfire. So what's the plan? Michael was thinking, calculating. The operative wanted revenge, wanted to hurt Michael the way Michael had hurt him, which meant he's going to try for Maya. Michael said, the realization hitting like ice water. He's not here to escape. He's here to make me suffer. Then let's make sure he doesn't get that chance, Sergeant Chen said, and Michael heard the distinctive sound of a rifle being chambered. I pulled a submachine gun off one of the downed operatives' H&K MP5. If you can flush him into the open, I can end this. You sure about that shot in the dark? Night ops training, sir. I eat and shit in the dark. Just give me a target. Michael took a breath. One shot at this. If he missed, if the operative got past him to Maya. He couldn't think about that. Olivia, he said quietly. On my mark, I need you to make noise, scream. Make him think Maya's with you. What no? Trust me, please. A pause. Then, okay. Michael moved silently through the darkness, counting steps, building a mental map. Past row 3, row 4. He could hear the operative's breathing, now harsh and angry. Close. Mark, Michael whispered. Olivia screamed, a piercing, terrified sound that would make any predator's head turn. The operative took the bait, moving toward the sound, and Michael saw him in profile, against the faint glow of an exit sign. He shouted, Now! Sergeant Chen's MP5 barked 3 times, controlled burst. The operative went down hard, his gun clattering away into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on battery backup, finally engaging, and the cabin was suddenly bathed in that eerie red glow that made everything look like a horror movie. The operative was sprawled in the aisle, not moving. Chen approached, carefully weapon-trained, and kicked his gun away. Clear. Michael was already running back to Maya, scooping her up, even though she was getting too big to carry easily, holding her so tight it probably hurt. She was crying, her whole body shaking, and he just held her and rocked her and whispered, It's okay, you're safe. I've got you. I've got you. Is it over? Olivia asked, her voice raw. Please tell me it's over. Michael looked at the bodies scattered through the cabin. Cross wounded, but alive. Lee secured by Rodriguez. The thin man dead from Michael's earlier shots. The bald man dead from his partner's betrayal. And now this 4th operative bleeding out in the aisle. It's over, he said, and prayed he was telling the truth. The cabin was a disaster. Passengers were standing now, the shock wearing off, replaced by anger and fear, and questions nobody could answer. Someone was demanding to speak to the captain. Someone else was crying hysterically. A man in a business suit was trying to organize people into rows, like order could be imposed on chaos. The flight attendant, who'd been compromised, approached Michael hesitantly. I'm so sorry. They had my sister. I didn't know what else to do. It's okay, Michael said gently, still holding Maya. You did what you had to do. Is your sister safe? I don't know. I can't reach her. The phones. We'll make sure she's safe. I promise. He looked at Olivia. Can you handle that? Once we land. Already on it. Olivia said, pulling out her phone. Still no signal, but she was typing notes. I'll have my security team check on her the second we're on the ground. Full protection detail until we're sure Cross's people can't retaliate. The captain's voice came over the intercom, static-filled but functional. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Matthews. As you're aware, we've experienced a situation. I'm declaring an emergency and diverting to Kangerlussuaq, Greenland. ETA 32 minutes. I need everyone to return to their seats and remain calm. We have the situation under control. Under control. Michael almost laughed. Nothing about this was under control. Detective Rodriguez was moving through the cabin now, checking on passengers, offering reassurance. Sergeant Chen had secured all the weapons, creating a small arsenal on one of the serving carts. And Cross was sitting propped against a bulkhead, Sergeant Chen's field dressing, already soaked through with blood, staring at Michael with an expression that mixed pain, rage, and something else. Fear. You made a mistake, Cross said as Michael approached. Letting me live. Maybe, Michael acknowledged. But I'm not who you think I am anymore. I don't kill unless I absolutely have to. Noble. Very noble. But the people who are looking for the gray fox, they won't care about your nobility. They'll come, and they'll find you. And when they do, his eyes slid to Maya, still clinging to her father. They won't care about collateral damage. The threat was clear, specific, and it landed exactly as Cross intended. Michael crouched down to Cross's level. Then I'll deal with them, just like I dealt with you. You didn't deal with me. You delayed me. There's a difference. Cross coughed, pain flashing across his face. I've already sent word. Already made calls before I got on this plane. People know the gray fox is alive. People know to look for a man with a daughter. You think this ends here? This is just the beginning. You're bluffing. Am I? Cross smiled through bloody teeth. There's a reason I came personally. This wasn't just about Olivia. This was about confirmation. And now I have it. Even if I don't make it off this plane, even if you kill me right now, the information is already out there, already spreading through channels you can't access anymore. Michael felt something cold settle in his stomach. Because Cross was right. If the information was already distributed, if people already knew to look for a dead operative with a young daughter, Maya would never be safe. What do you want? Michael asked quietly. Now we're talking. Cross shifted, wincing. Here's my offer. You disappear. Really disappear. Take your daughter and vanish so deep that nobody can find you. And in exchange, I'll put out word that the gray fox sighting was a false alarm. Mistaken identity. You get to keep playing house in whatever hole you crawl into. And Olivia gets to keep her company. For now. I'll find another angle on Nexus. His smile sharpened. See, I can be reasonable, when properly motivated. Michael looked at Maya, then at Olivia, then back at Cross. Every instinct screamed that making deals with predators only fed them. But what choice did he have if he refused, if Cross spread the word about the gray fox being alive? I need time, Michael said, to think about it. You don't have time. We land in 30 minutes. Once we're on the ground, once I'm in custody, I lose any leverage I have. So decide now. Your daughter's safety for Olivia's freedom. One or the other. It was Maya who spoke, her voice small but clear. Daddy, what's he talking about? Michael closed his eyes. How much had she heard? How much had she understood? Nothing, baby, adult stuff. Is the bad man saying we have to leave, that we can't go see Grandma? I don't know yet. Maya pulled back to look at him, her young face serious. Miss Sterling is nice. She held me when I was scared. We can't let the bad man hurt her. I know, but you always say we help people who are nice to us. You say that's what good people do. Her eyes were so earnest, so absolutely certain of right and wrong in the way only children could be. So we help her, even if it's hard. And there it was. His daughter, his 7-year-old daughter, making the moral choice that Michael's training and experience and cynicism wouldn't let him make. He looked at Cross. Deal's off. You're making a mistake. I've made plenty of those. This won't even crack the top 10. Michael stood lifting Maya with him. Here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to be arrested when we land. You're going to be charged with attempted kidnapping, assault, conspiracy, to commit murder, and about 15 other felonies. And you're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell thinking about the day you threatened a 7-year-old girl and learned that some people can't be bought or intimidated or reasoned with. Cross's expression shifted from smugness to genuine alarm. You're signing your own death warrant. And hers. Maybe. But at least I'll be able to look at her in the mirror. Michael turned to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Cross, that thing about spreading information, about putting out word that the gray fox is alive? You're right. That information is probably already out there, which means I've got nothing left to lose. So if anything happens to my daughter, if anyone comes near her, I won't come for you legally. I won't play by rules anymore. I'll become exactly what you threatened to expose the monster who killed 17 people in one night because someone needed it done. Only this time, there won't be any government sanction, any rules of engagement. It'll just be me doing what I do best until you're erased from existence so completely that even your money won't save you. He walked back to his seat, set Maya down gently, and buckled her in. Olivia was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. You didn't have to do that. You could have taken the deal, kept Maya safe. She wouldn't have been safe. Not really. People like Cross don't honor deals. They just buy time. He sank into his seat, suddenly exhausted. Besides, my kid just gave me a moral lesson. Kind of hard to ignore that. She's amazing. Yeah. Michael looked at his daughter, who was clutching her rabbit and trying very hard to be brave. Yeah, she is. The plane began its descent, the change in pressure making Michael's ears pop. Through the window, he could see lights below Kangerlussuaq, a tiny outpost of civilization in the vast white nothing of Greenland. Emergency vehicles were already positioned on the runway, their lights strobing red and blue against the darkness. What happens when we land? Olivia asked quietly. Chaos, Michael said. Police, interrogations, media circus. You're the CEO of a major corporation who was just targeted for kidnapping. This is going to be everywhere. And you... He was quiet for a moment. Depends on what story gets told. If I'm just a passenger who helped stop a hijacking, maybe I walk away. If Cross starts talking, if people start digging into who I really am. He didn't finish the thought. Maya tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, when we get off the plane, can we still get pancakes? You promised. The question was so innocent, so perfectly normal that Michael felt tears prick his eyes. His daughter had just lived through a nightmare, and she was worried about pancakes. Yeah, baby girl, we can still get pancakes. Can Miss Sterling come too? She's never had your pancakes. They're the best. Olivia laughed, and it sounded slightly hysterical. I would love to have pancakes with you, Maya, if your dad doesn't mind. The more the merrier, Michael said, even though he knew it was a promise he might not be able to keep. Because when they landed, when the authorities got involved, everything would change. The wheels touched down with a jolt, the reverse thrusters screaming. Through the windows, Michael could see emergency personnel surrounding the aircraft tactical teams in full-gear ambulances standing by. Here we go, he murmured. The plane taxied to a stop, and almost immediately the forward door opened. Tactical officers poured in, weapons drawn, shouting commands in Danish and English. Passengers screamed again, hands going up automatically. Everyone remain seated. This is the Danish police. Nobody move. Detective Rodriguez stood, badge held high. NYPD, we have the situation secured. Suspects are already subdued. The lead officer, a stern-faced woman with captain's bars, lowered her weapon slightly. Who's in charge here? Every head turned toward Michael. He stood slowly, hands visible. Maya pressed against his side. I'm not in charge, just a passenger who helped out. A passenger who took down 4 armed operatives. The captain's eyes were sharp, assessing. I'll need to speak with you, extensively. Of course, but first, he looked down at Maya. My daughter needs to get somewhere warm and safe. She's been through enough. The captain's expression softened slightly, seeing Maya's tear-stained face. There's a medical team outside. They'll take care of her. I stay with my daughter. Sir. I stay with my daughter, Michael repeated, and there was steel in his voice now. Non-negotiable. The captain studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Fine. Medical team can evaluate you both together. But after that we talk. You understand? Understood. They moved through the cabin slowly, medics checking passengers, officers taking preliminary statements. Cross was loaded onto a stretcher, still conscious, still staring at Michael with that mixture of rage and fear. Lee and the other surviving operative were taken away in restraints. As Michael carried Maya down the air stairs, the cold hit like a physical force. Greenland in winter, probably 20 below, maybe colder. Maya buried her face against his neck, and he wrapped his jacket around her as best he could. Olivia followed, flanked by officers already on her phone, somehow already mobilizing her corporate machinery to manage the fallout. She caught Michael's eye and mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded. They were herded into a terminal building. Harsh fluorescent lights and plastic chairs, and the smell of industrial coffee. Maya was checked over by a medic. No injuries, just shock and exhaustion. Michael submitted to examination too, discovering he'd taken a graze along his ribs at some point during the chaos. He didn't even remember when. Hours blurred together. Questions, statements. The same story told over and over to different officers, different agencies. Olivia's lawyers arrived, somehow impossibly. Her people had managed to get a legal team to Greenland in under 4 hours. They ran interference, buying time, crafting narrative. Maya fell asleep against Michael's chest, exhausted beyond measure. He held her and answered questions and watched the sun rise over the frozen landscape through dirty windows. Finally, as dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, the Danish captain returned. She looked tired, frustrated. Your story checks out, she said without preamble. Multiple witnesses confirm you acted in defense of yourself and others. No charges will be filed. She paused. You're free to go. There's a flight to Reykjavik in 3 hours, connection to New York after that. Michael stood carefully, Maya still sleeping in his arms. What about Cross? In custody. Danish authorities will hold him pending extradition to the United States. Between the kidnapping attempt, the weapons charges, and about 15 other felonies, he won't see daylight for a very long time. Her eyes narrowed. But I'm curious about something. His lawyers are claiming you're someone else. Someone dangerous. Someone who shouldn't be walking around free. There it was, the moment Michael had been dreading. I don't know what he told you, Michael said carefully, but I'm exactly who I say I am. A single dad, an IT consultant. Nobody special. The captain studied him for a long moment. The thing about that story, it almost works. Except IT consultants don't move like you do, don't assess threats like you do, don't make the kind of tactical decisions you made on that plane. She leaned in closer. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know operators when I see them, and you, Mr. Harris, are definitely an operator. I'm a father protecting his daughter. That too. She stepped back. But here's what I know. You saved lives today. Whatever you were before, whoever you might have been today, you were a hero. So I'm going to accept your story. I'm going to process your release, and I'm going to let you walk out of here with your daughter." She paused. "But if I ever find out you lied to me, if I ever discover you're someone dangerous operating under false pretenses, I will find you, and I will make sure you face justice. Are we clear?" "Crystal." She handed him a business card. "If you remember anything else about the incident, contact me directly." Michael pocketed the card, knowing he'd never use it. Olivia was waiting outside the interrogation room, her lawyers hovering like well-dressed vultures. She looked exhausted, her perfect facade finally cracking to show the scared young woman underneath. "They're letting us go," Michael told her. "I know. My legal team—" She stopped, laughed shakily. "This is insane. All of it. Yesterday I was worried about quarterly earnings. Today I'm giving statements about attempted kidnapping at 37,000 feet. How are you holding up?" "I'm not," she admitted. "But I will be. I have to be. The media's already all over this. CEO survives attempted kidnapping. Plane hero saves 200 lives. My PR team is working overtime to control the narrative." "What narrative are they selling?" Olivia looked at him, really looked at him. "The one where you're a brave passenger who stepped up when it mattered. Not the one where you're—" She trailed off. "The Gray Fox." She flinched at the name. "Is it true what Cross said about Prague? Belgrade, all of it?" Michael looked down at Maya, still sleeping peacefully despite everything. "Does it matter?" "I don't know. Maybe." Olivia crossed her arms. "I need to know who I'm thanking, who I'm—" She stopped herself. "Who you're what? Who I'm considering hiring." Michael blinked. "What?" "I need a head of security. Someone who actually knows what they're doing. Someone who can prevent this from ever happening again." Her voice was steady now, businesslike. "I'm offering you a job, Michael, or whatever your real name is. Legitimate work, legitimate pay, protection for you and Maya." "You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious. Cross was right about one thing: I'm vulnerable. Vale Group is vulnerable, and I need someone I can trust. Someone who's proven they'll do the right thing even when it costs them everything." She stepped closer. "You could have taken Cross's deal, could have disappeared with Maya. Instead, you chose to help me, so I'm returning the favor. A job, full benefits, corporate housing, security for your daughter, and—" She pulled out a folder, handed it to him. "A new identity. Legal, clean, bulletproof. My lawyers can make Michael Harris real. So real that even the people looking for the Gray Fox won't find him." Michael opened the folder, scanned the documents inside. Birth certificate, social security card, employment history, a life fully constructed, completely legitimate. "This must have cost a fortune," he said quietly. "I have a fortune, and I owe you my life." Olivia's voice softened. "Let me help you. Let me give you and Maya the fresh start you deserve." Maya stirred against his chest, her eyes opening slowly. "Daddy, where are we?" "Greenland, baby girl." "Are the bad men gone?" "Yeah, they're gone." She sat up, rubbing her eyes, and saw Olivia. "Miss Sterling, you're okay? Thanks to you and your dad?" Olivia smiled. "Hey, Maya. How would you like to come live in New York for real?" Maya's eyes went wide. "Really, with the big buildings and the park and everything?" "Everything," Olivia confirmed. "And your dad would work for me, keeping people safe." "Like he did on the plane?" "Exactly like that." Maya looked up at Michael, her expression hopeful. "Can we? Daddy, please." And Michael Harris, who'd spent 3 years running from his past, who'd built a life on lies and fear, and the desperate hope that he could be someone different, looked at his daughter's face and saw the future she deserved. Not in hiding, not in fear, but in light, in safety, in a place where the Gray Fox could finally truly die and Michael Harris could finally truly live. "Yeah, baby girl." he said, his voice rough with emotion. Yeah, we can. The flight from Greenland to Reykjavik was mercifully uneventful. Maya slept most of the way curled up across 2 seats with her head in Michael's lap, exhaustion finally claiming her completely. Michael didn't sleep. Couldn't. His mind was racing with variables, probabilities, all the ways this could go wrong. Olivia sat across the aisle, her laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. Every few minutes her phone would buzz messages from her legal team, her PR department, her board of directors. The modern crisis response to attempted kidnapping packaged and managed in real time. They want me to do a press conference when we land, she said without looking up. My communications director thinks we should frame this as a corporate security triumph. Vale Group executive survives sophisticated attack. Makes us look strong. And me. Now she looked at him. They want you front and center. The hero passenger. Good optics. Relatable everyman saves CEO and 200 lives. She paused. I told them you might not be comfortable with that level of attention. That's an understatement. I can keep you out of it. Say you declined to be identified. Plenty of witnesses saw what happened, but nobody got a clear photo of you in the chaos. My lawyers can bury your name in paperwork for weeks if we need to. Michael looked down at Maya, her face peaceful in sleep. How fast can you make the new identity happen? 48 hours, maybe less if we expedite. Olivia closed her laptop. But Michael, you need to understand what you're signing up for. This isn't just a job offer. This is witness protection without the program. You'll be Michael Harris on paper, but you'll be working for one of the most visible tech companies in the world. There will be background checks, security clearances, media inquiries. If there's anything in your past that can surface. There's a lot that can surface, he said quietly. The question is whether your people are good enough to keep it buried. They're the best money can buy. Money doesn't buy everything. You should know that better than anyone after today. Olivia's jaw tightened. Fair point. But I have more than money. I have leverage, political connections, favors owed, and I have motivation. Cross went after me, but he'll come after my company next if he gets out. I need someone who can prevent that. Someone who understands how these people think. And what happens when your board finds out you hired a ghost to run security? They won't find out. As far as anyone knows, you're exactly what your file says you are. Former Army worked private security overseas, impeccable references. My HR department will rubber stamp it because I'm telling them to. Former Army. Michael raised an eyebrow. I was never. You are now. 2 tours in Afghanistan, honorable discharge decorated for valor. It's all there in the file. She leaned forward. The beauty of corporate security clearances is that they're not as thorough as government ones. Nobody's going to call the Pentagon to verify. And if they do, my people have already backfilled the records. Michael wanted to ask how that was possible, but he already knew. Money connections and the right amount of pressure could rewrite history, at least the official version. What about Maya's school records, her birth certificate? Everything that shows where we've really been the last 3 years. Being handled. New school in Manhattan enrollment backdated 6 months. Transcripts transferred from a private academy in Chicago that's very protective of student privacy. Maya Harris' 7-year-old father recently relocated to New York for work opportunity. You've thought of everything. I have a very good legal team. Olivia's expression softened. But I need to know you're committed. Once we land, once this starts, there's no backing out. You'll be all in. Michael stroked Maya's hair, feeling the weight of the decision settling over him like a blanket. 3 years ago, he'd made a choice to disappear to become nobody. Now, he was choosing to become somebody again. Different somebody. Better somebody, he hoped. I'm in, he said. But I have conditions. Name them. Maya's safety is non-negotiable. If there's ever a threat, if anyone comes near her, I pull her out immediately. No questions, no delays. Agreed. Second, I work my way. I don't take orders from people who don't understand the threat level. If I say something needs to happen, it happens. Olivia smiled slightly. You do realize you're negotiating with your boss, right? You hired me to keep you alive. That means sometimes telling you things you don't want to hear. Fair enough. What else? I need access, real access, financial records, personnel files, security systems. If someone in your organization is dirty, I need to be able to find them. That's a lot of trust. You just offered me a completely fabricated identity and a six-figure job based on 6 hours of knowing me. We're already past trust. She laughed, and it was the first genuine sound he'd heard from her since the plane. Okay, you've got your access. Anything else? Yeah. Michael's voice dropped. If this goes sideways, if my past catches up and puts your company at risk, I walk away. Clean break. No connection between us. You say I was a contractor who went rogue and you cut ties immediately. Michael, I mean it. I won't let what I was destroy what you've built. Maya and I disappear and you get to keep your company. Deal. Olivia was quiet for a long moment, studying him with those sharp executive eyes that probably evaluated risk for a living. Finally, she extended her hand. Deal. But for the record, I don't think it'll come to that. They shook on it, and Michael felt something shift. A door closing on one life, another opening on the next. The plane touched down at JFK just after 6 p.m. The New York skyline lit up against the darkening sky like a promise. Maya woke up as they taxied, rubbing her eyes and pressing her face against the window. Look, Daddy, it's so big. That's New York, baby girl, your new home. Can we really live here with all the lights? Yeah, we really can. Olivia's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, frowned. Media's at the terminal. Someone leaked our arrival time. Can we avoid them? There's a private exit for first-class passengers. My car's waiting. She stood gathering her things with practiced efficiency. Stay close to me. My security team will run interference. They deplaned through a jetway that felt too bright, too normal after everything. Airport staff were already waiting. Olivia's people clearly moving with the coordinated purpose of a well-oiled machine. A woman in a crisp pantsuit approached, tablet in hand. Ms. Sterling, welcome back. Your car's ready. We've cleared a path to the vehicle, but there are approximately 40 media personnel in the main terminal. She glanced at Michael and Maya. I wasn't informed we'd have additional passengers. Last-minute addition, Olivia said smoothly. This is Michael Harris and his daughter Maya. They'll be coming with us. Make sure they're on the approved list for the vehicle. The woman's fingers flew across her tablet. Done, if you'll follow me. They moved through corridors that bypassed the main terminal, Maya's hand tight in Michael's. She was trying to be brave, but he could feel the tremor in her fingers. Too much too fast. A 7-year-old shouldn't have to process attempted kidnapping and relocation in the same day. You okay? He murmured. My tummy feels funny. Nervous. She nodded. That's okay. New places are scary. But I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. They emerged into an underground parking area where a black Mercedes SUV waited, engine running. The driver, a thick-necked man who screamed former military, opened the rear door without a word. Thank you, James, Olivia said, climbing in. Michael, Maya, let's go. Michael hesitated at the door. Every instinct screaming trap. Enclosed vehicle, unknown driver, underground location with limited exits. Perfect ambush point. Michael, Olivia's voice from inside. Something wrong? Just checking the perimeter. James has been with me for 4 years. I trust him completely. Trust. That word again. Michael scanned the parking area once more. No threats visible, no obvious danger, and made the call. He lifted Maya into the SUV and climbed in after her. The door closed with a solid thunk, and they were moving. Where are we going? Maya asked, pressing against Michael's side. Somewhere safe, Olivia said. I have a corporate apartment in Midtown. You'll stay there tonight, get some rest. Tomorrow we'll start setting everything up properly. The SUV emerged from underground into New York traffic, and Michael felt his chest tighten. Too many vehicles, too many sightlines, too many places for a threat to materialize. His old training was screaming at him to assess, to plan, to identify threats. Maya must have sensed his tension because she squeezed his hand. "It's okay, Daddy. Miss Sterling said we're safe." From the mouths of babes. They drove through Manhattan, the city alive and glowing around them. Maya stared out the window, wide-eyed, taking in the lights and the people and the impossible vertical landscape. Michael watched her instead of the scenery, watched wonder replace fear on her face, and felt something in his chest unclench slightly. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could actually build something here. The SUV pulled up to a glass tower in Midtown, all modern lines and expensive materials. A doorman appeared, immediately opening the vehicle door with practiced efficiency. "Ms. Sterling, welcome back." "Thank you, Robert. These are my guests, Mr. Harris and his daughter. They'll be staying in the executive suite. Please make sure they have everything they need." "Of course, ma'am." They rode an elevator to the 42nd floor, Maya counting the numbers as they climbed. The doors opened onto a private foyer, just one apartment per floor, Michael noted. Serious security. The apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that probably cost more than Michael's old annual salary, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Maya gasped. "It's like a castle." "Make yourselves comfortable," Olivia said, setting down her bag. "There's food in the kitchen, clothes in the closets. I had my assistant stock the place before we landed. Maya, the bedroom on the right has some toys and books. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I got a variety." Maya looked at Michael for permission. He nodded, and she took off running, her exhaustion forgotten in the excitement of exploration. Alone with Olivia, Michael finally let himself relax slightly. "This is too much. This is necessary. You can't exactly go back to wherever you were living before, and I need you close at least until we're sure Cross's people aren't going to retaliate." About that, Michael moved to the windows, checking sight lines automatically. Cross said he'd already put out word that people were looking for the gray fox. That wasn't a bluff. "You think someone will come?" "I think someone's already coming. The question is who and when." He turned to face her. "Your security team, how thoroughly are they vetted?" "Background checks, references, the standard corporate screening." "Not good enough. Anyone who was with Cross could have planted someone months ago. Long-term asset activated when needed." Olivia's face paled. "You think there's a mole in my organization?" "I think Cross didn't orchestrate a mid-air kidnapping without serious planning and intel. Someone told him which flight you'd be on. Someone made sure the flight attendant was compromised. Someone disabled the plane's communications." Michael crossed to her, his voice low and urgent. "This wasn't just Cross. This was bigger, and we need to figure out how big before it comes back around." A sound from the bedroom. Maya's delighted squeal as she discovered something. Normal. Innocent. Everything Michael was trying to protect. Olivia pulled out her phone. "I'll have my security chief come up. Marcus Chen. If anyone would know about internal threats." "No." Michael's hand closed over her phone. "If there is a mole going through official channels, tips them off. We do this quietly, just us." "Michael, I can't just—" The lights went out. Complete darkness, the city view beyond the windows, suddenly the only illumination. Michael's hand went to his waistband. No weapon, he'd left the confiscated gun with Danish police before he heard Maya's frightened cry from the bedroom. "Daddy. I'm coming, baby." He moved through the darkness on memory 3 steps to the bedroom door and found Maya standing by the window, her rabbit clutched tight. "It's okay, just a power outage." "But the lights outside are still on," she said, pointing. She was right. The city was still blazing. Just this building, this apartment in darkness. Michael's blood went cold. "Olivia," he called out. "Do you have a flashlight, weapon? Anything?" "There's a safe in the master bedroom. Code is a sound from the foyer. The elevator. Someone was coming up. Michael grabbed Maya, pulling her close. Stay behind me. Don't move. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime and a figure stepped out. Backlit by the elevator lights, features obscured, but the body language was wrong. Too tense. Too ready. Ms. Sterling. A male voice. Unfamiliar. Building security. We've had a power failure in your unit. I'm here to check the circuit breaker. I didn't call building security, Olivia said, her voice remarkably steady. Standard protocol, ma'am. Whenever there's a localized failure. What's your name? Michael cut in. Your employee ID number. Hesitation. Just a fraction of a second, but enough. Sir, I need you to step aside. This is a security matter. Michael shifted, putting himself fully between the man and his daughter. Show me your credentials, slowly. The man's hand moved toward his belt. Michael tensed, ready to charge if he had to, and the lights came back on. The security guard was young, early 20s, with a weapon holstered at his hip that was definitely not standard issue for building security. His hand had frozen on the grip. That's not a taser, Michael observed. That's a Glock 43. Why does building security need a concealed carry pistol? The young man's eyes darted to Olivia, then to Maya, calculating. I can explain. Don't. Olivia's voice was ice. I know every security officer in this building. You're not one of them. The man's expression shifted from nervous to resigned. His hand moved away from the gun, raising slowly. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just need to talk to him. He nodded toward Michael. The gray fox. Maya made a small sound of fear. Michael's jaw clenched. Who sent you? People who need to know if the rumors are true. If you're really alive. The young man looked tired, suddenly older than his years. I'm not hostile. I'm just verifying. Verifying for who? Can't say. But they're not your enemies. Not all of them anyway. He pulled out a phone slowly, carefully, and held it up. I was supposed to take a photo. Proof. Then leave. And if I don't let you, then I report that the verification was inconclusive, and they send someone less friendly next time. His eyes were earnest, almost pleading. I'm giving you a heads up, man. This is the soft probe. The next one won't be. Michael studied him, running calculations. Kill him. No, not with Maya watching. Restrain him. Possible, but it would just delay the inevitable. Let him take the photo. Confirm the rumors. How did you find me? Olivia demanded. How did you know I'd be here? I didn't know about you. I followed him. The young man nodded at Michael. From the airport. Wasn't hard. You're not exactly trying to hide. Because he hadn't been. Stupid. Rookie mistake. 3 years out of the game and he'd forgotten the basics. Take your photo, Michael said quietly. Then get out. Michael, Olivia started. It's fine. He's right. If I don't let him verify, they'll send someone worse. He looked at the young man. But you tell whoever sent you that the gray fox is retired. Dead as far as anyone should care. And if they come near my daughter, if they threaten her in any way, I come out of retirement long enough to end them. Permanently. We clear? The young man nodded, raising his phone. The camera flash was bright in the dim apartment. 1 photo, 2. Got it. I'm sorry, man. Really. He backed toward the elevator. For what it's worth, a lot of people were glad when they heard you might be alive. You did good work. I did terrible work for people who called it good, Michael corrected. Now get out. The elevator doors closed, and he was gone. Maya was crying silently against Michael's leg. Olivia stood frozen, her phone clutched in white-knuckled fingers. What just happened? She whispered. Confirmation, Michael said, scooping up Maya and holding her tight. Someone knows I'm alive. Someone knows I'm in New York, and now someone has photos to prove it. Who, CIA, NSA? Could be anyone. Military intelligence, private contractors, foreign services who want payback for operations that went sideways. He carried Maya to the couch, sat down with her in his lap. The gray fox made a lot of enemies, and now they know where to find him. Then we accelerate the new identity. Get you off the grid faster. Won't matter. They've already seen me with you. They'll connect Michael Harris to Olivia Sterling. They'll know where to look. He stroked Maya's hair, his mind racing. We need to move. Tonight. Somewhere secure. I have a safe house. Upstate. The company keeps it for executive protection scenarios. How many people know about it? Just me and my head of security. Marcus Chen. The one you wanted to call earlier. Olivia nodded. Michael thought about the young man who'd just left, how easily he'd accessed the building, how quickly he'd found them. We can't use it. If Chen's compromised, it's a trap. You don't know that he is. And you don't know that he isn't. Can you afford to bet your life on it? Maya's life. The question hung in the air between them. Finally, Olivia pulled out her phone. I know someone. Someone who owes me favors. Someone outside my usual network. Who, an old friend from college, works in protective services for UN diplomats. If anyone knows how to hide people, it's her. She was already dialing. Her name's Sarah Reeves. We haven't talked in 2 years, but she'll help. The call connected. Brief conversation, mostly one-sided. Olivia explaining the situation in careful terms, then listening, nodding. She'll meet us in an hour, Olivia said, ending the call. Brooklyn. A hotel she says is run by former Mossad. Discreet, secure, no questions asked. Can you trust her? With my life. And before you ask, yes, she's outside my corporate circle. She doesn't know Chen doesn't work for Vale Group. If there's a mole in my organization, she's clean. Michael wanted to argue, wanted to point out that trust got people killed, but they were out of options. Okay, 1 hour, but we move carefully. No company vehicles. No credit cards that trace back to you. How do we? Cash, Uber. We blend into the city like everyone else. He stood still, holding Maya. Pack light. Only what you need. They moved through the apartment quickly. Olivia changed into jeans and a sweater. Michael had never seen her in anything but business wear, and the transformation was jarring. Younger, more vulnerable, more human. Maya had fallen asleep again, exhausted by fear and adrenaline. Michael carried her to the bedroom, laid her down gently, and started pulling together a go-bag from the clothes Olivia's assistant had stocked. A few changes of clothes for both of them, toiletries, Maya's rabbit. He found a kitchen knife, not much, but better than nothing, and tucked it into his waistband. When he emerged, Olivia was waiting by the door with a small overnight bag. She'd pulled her hair back, minimal makeup, trying to look ordinary. It almost worked. Ready? She asked. No, he admitted. But we're out of time. They took the elevator down to the lobby. The doorman, Robert, barely glanced up as they passed. Good. Forgettable. That's what they needed. Outside, the city noise hit like a wall. Traffic voices, sirens somewhere in the distance. Michael hailed a yellow cab, old school, untraceable, and gave the driver a cross street 2 blocks from where they actually needed to go. The cab smelled like air freshener and stale coffee. Maya stirred, but didn't wake. Michael watched out the back window looking for tails and saw nothing obvious, which meant either they were clean or the tail was better than he was. They got out at the cross street, walked the remaining blocks. Brooklyn was different from Manhattan, grittier, more residential. The hotel was small, anonymous, the kind of place business travelers used when they couldn't afford Manhattan prices. Sarah Reeves was waiting in the lobby. Tall, athletic, with prematurely gray hair and the watchful eyes of someone who'd seen too much. She stood when Olivia entered, and there was genuine warmth in her embrace. Liv, you look like hell. I've had a day. Olivia gestured to Michael. Sarah, this is... Don't tell me his name. Sarah interrupted. Less I know, better for everyone. Her eyes swept over Michael with professional assessment. Former military. Special operations, if I'm reading the body language right. And you... She looked at Maya, sleeping in Michael's arms. Are the reason we're being careful. She's my daughter, Michael said quietly. Then let's make sure she stays safe. Sarah handed Olivia a keycard. Room 412, registered under a shell company. Paid cash 3 months in advance. No surveillance cameras in the hallways. No credit card on file. No names in the system. You're ghosts, as long as you're here. Thank you, Olivia breathed. Don't thank me yet. Whatever you're running from, it's big enough that you called me at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. That's not a small problem. Sarah's voice dropped. Is it legal trouble because I can make calls if you need extraction? It's complicated, Olivia said. It always is. Sarah handed over a second item, a burner phone. My number's the only one programmed in. You need anything, you call. And Liv, be careful. If someone's after you hard enough that you're hiding in Brooklyn, they're serious. They took the elevator to the 4th floor. The room was small but clean, 2 double beds and a bathroom that had seen better days but was functional. Maya barely stirred as Michael laid her on the bed closer to the wall, positioning himself between her and the door automatically. Olivia sat on the other bed, finally letting her composure crack. This is insane. 24 hours ago, I was worried about quarterly reports. Now I'm in a safe house in Brooklyn with a dead government assassin and his daughter hiding from people I can't identify who want to do things I can't predict. You can still walk away, Michael said. Get on a plane. Disappear. Let me and Maya vanish. You go back to your life. And what? Pretend none of this happened. Pretend Cross didn't try to kidnap me at 37,000 feet. She laughed bitterly. I'm already in it. Might as well see it through. Michael studied her, really looked at her for the first time since the plane. She'd held up remarkably well under pressure. Most civilians would have shattered. But she'd kept her head, made smart decisions, protected Maya when he needed her to. You're tougher than you look, he said. I'm the daughter of a Marine. My father didn't raise me to fold under pressure. She met his eyes. And I keep my promises. I said I'd give you a new life. I meant it. Even if it costs you your company. Even then. She stood, moving to the window, looking out at Brooklyn's nightscape. My father built Vale Group from nothing, gave his whole life to it. And you know what? When he had his stroke, when he was lying in that hospital bed, barely conscious, you know what the board did. They called an emergency meeting to discuss succession. Didn't even wait for him to die. Just started circling like vultures. Corporate America. Corporate America, she agreed. So no, I don't care if protecting you costs me the company. I care about doing the right thing. And you saved my life. You saved 200 lives. So I'm going to make sure you and Maya have the future you deserve, no matter what it takes. Maya shifted in her sleep, murmuring something inaudible. Michael moved to her, adjusting the blanket, his hand resting on her back to feel her breathing. She's going to have nightmares, he said quietly. About the plane, about the guns, about seeing me. Seeing you be a hero. Seeing me be a killer. You didn't kill anyone in front of her, Olivia pointed out. You protected her. That's what she'll remember. You don't know that. I know that kids are resilient, and I know she has a father who loves her enough to give up everything to keep her safe. Olivia sat on the bed beside him. That counts for something, Michael. That counts for a lot. They sat in silence. Two people from completely different worlds, brought together by violence and chance and the desperate human need to survive. Finally, Michael spoke. Tomorrow we need a plan. Real plan. We can't hide forever. Agreed. I'll reach out to my legal team, get the new identity expedited. We can have you fully operational as Michael Harris, head of corporate security, by Monday. And the people looking for the gray fox. We deal with them. Together. Olivia's voice was firm. But first we sleep. We've both been running on adrenaline for 18 hours. We need to rest. She was right, but Michael's body was still wired, still waiting for the next threat. Old habits. I'll take first watch, he said. Watch, Michael, we're in a secure hotel. No such thing as secure, not anymore. He moved to the chair by the window, positioning himself where he could see both the door and the beds. Get some sleep. I'll wake you in 4 hours. Olivia wanted to argue, he could see it in her expression. But exhaustion won out. She kicked off her shoes, pulled a blanket over herself, and was asleep within minutes. Michael sat in the darkness, watching the city lights beyond the window, listening to the steady breathing of his daughter and the woman who'd offered them salvation. And he thought about the young man with the camera phone, about the photo now circulating through encrypted channels, about all the people who'd want verification, who'd want revenge, who'd want to use the gray fox for one more mission, one more impossible task. He thought about Cross's warning, about exposure, about the price of being found. But mostly, he thought about Maya, about her smile when she saw the New York skyline, about her trust that Daddy would keep her safe, about the life she deserved, normal, happy, free from the shadows of his past. And Michael Harris, who'd spent 3 years running from his demons, made a decision. He wasn't running anymore. If they wanted the gray fox, they could come find him. But they'd find something different than they expected. Not a ghost, not an asset, not a weapon. A father, protecting his family. And that he thought as the first gray light of dawn crept across the Brooklyn skyline. Dawn broke over Brooklyn with that particular quality of light that only New York could produce, gray and gold, fighting for dominance through the urban haze. Michael had been awake all night, his body refusing rest despite exhaustion that went bone deep. Every sound in the hallway made his hand drift toward the kitchen knife at his waistband. Every set of footsteps outside the door triggered calculations about escape routes and defensive positions. Maya stirred first, her eyes opening slowly, confused about where she was until she saw Michael. Then that sleepy smile that made everything worthwhile. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, baby girl. Sleep okay?" "I had a dream about the plane. But you were there, so it was okay." She sat up, reaching for her rabbit. "Are we still in New York?" "Still in New York." "Can we get pancakes now, you promised?" The question was so innocent, so perfectly normal after everything they'd been through, that Michael felt his throat tighten. "Yeah, we can get pancakes." Olivia woke moments later, her executive composure returning almost immediately, despite the rumpled clothes and pillow-creased face. She checked her phone, the burner Sarah had given her, and her expression darkened. "What is it?" Michael asked. "Text from Sarah. She says we need to leave. Now. Someone's been asking questions at the front desk." Michael was moving before she finished the sentence, gathering their minimal belongings, Maya's stuffed rabbit, the go-bag he'd prepared. "How long ago?" 10 minutes. She delayed them, but they know we're here." He scooped up Maya, who sensed the urgency, and went quiet. "Fire escape or front door?" "Fire escape puts us in an alley with one exit. Front door has crowds, witnesses." Olivia was already at the window checking, but Sarah says there are at least 2 people watching the lobby. "Then we go up." "Up?" "Roof access. Cross to the adjacent building. Most of these old Brooklyn blocks connect." Michael was at the door listening. Footsteps in the hallway. Multiple sets. Professional spacing. "They're already on our floor." Olivia went pale, but kept her composure. "Okay. Up. Let's go." They slipped into the hallway, moving away from the elevator toward the stairwell. Michael could hear voices behind them, calm, controlled, the kind of operational communication that made his combat instincts scream danger. The stairwell door opened with a push bar that echoed too loudly. They took the stairs 2 at a time, Olivia struggling to keep pace in her leather flats. 6 floors to the roof. Michael counted each one, listening for pursuit. At the 8th floor, a door below them burst open. Heavy footfalls on concrete. "Go faster," Michael urged. They hit the roof access door, locked. Of course it was locked. "Stand back." Michael set Maya down, grabbed the fire extinguisher mounted on the wall, and smashed it through the door's window. Glass shattered, and he reached through to unlock it from inside. Cold morning air hit them as they emerged onto the roof. Brooklyn spread out around them, buildings and water towers, and the distant glitter of Manhattan across the river. The adjacent building was maybe 6 feet away, its roof 2 feet lower. "You're joking," Olivia said, staring at the gap. "Maya first." Michael was already positioning his daughter at the edge. "Baby, I need you to be very brave. I'm going to toss you to that other roof, and you're going to land and roll like we practiced at the playground. Remember." Maya's eyes were huge with fear, but she nodded. "That's my girl." He kissed her forehead, then threw her. Time seemed to slow. Airborne, her rabbit-clutch tight arms pinwheeling. Then she landed, stumbled, rolled exactly right, and came up grinning. "I did it? Good girl, stay there." Michael turned to Olivia. "You're next." "I can't, I've never." "Yes, you can. Run and jump. I'll be right behind you." The roof access door exploded open behind them. 2 men emerged, weapons drawn. Not civilians. Not cops. Private contractors probably, or intelligence assets activated for one purpose: finding the gray fox. "Jump!" Michael shouted. Olivia ran, fear overriding hesitation, and launched herself across the gap. She made it, barely landing hard and rolling. Maya helped her up with small hands, and together they turned to watch Michael. The 2 men were advancing, guns raised. "Don't move. We just want to talk." "Talked to your friend last night," Michael called back. "Didn't like what he had to say." "This doesn't have to be difficult. Just come with us. Answer some questions. Verify some information." "And my daughter." Hesitation. Wrong answer written all over their body language. Michael backed up 3 steps, took a running start, and jumped. He cleared the gap with room to spare, landing and rolling, coming up beside Olivia and Maya. The men on the other roof shouted something, but Michael was already moving, pulling his family toward the next roof access. This door was unlocked. They plunged into darkness, downstairs that smelled like mildew and old concrete. 4 floors down, Michael found a service door that opened into a residential hallway. Normal people were just starting their mornings. He could smell coffee, hear televisions, the sounds of ordinary life. They emerged onto a different street, blocks from the hotel. Michael hailed another cab, gave another cross street, kept moving. Maya was crying now, quiet sobs against his shoulder. "I don't like this, Daddy. I don't like running." "I know, baby. I'm sorry, but it's going to be okay." Except he wasn't sure it would be. The people looking for him were organized, well-funded, and persistent. This wasn't going away. The cab dropped them in Manhattan near Grand Central. Michael led them into the terminal, into the crush of Monday morning commuters. Lost in the crowd, anonymous, finally able to breathe. Olivia's phone buzzed. She checked it, her expression shifting from fear to confusion to something else. "It's from my office, my secretary. She says Marcus Chen, my head of security, never showed up for work this morning, and his apartment looks like it was cleared out in a hurry." Michael felt ice slide down his spine. "Chen. Your head of security who knew about the safe house you mentioned. Who would have known your schedule, your movements, everything? You think he was the mole? I think he disappeared the same day we got to New York, same day the gray fox got verified as alive. That's not coincidence." Michael found a quiet corner near the oyster bar, set Maya down. "Call your office. Full security audit. I want to know everyone Chen had contact with in the last 6 months, every file he accessed, every meeting he attended." "I can't just..." "Yes, you can. You're the CEO, and right now your company is compromised. Either you lock it down, or we're both dead by Friday." The blunt words landed hard. Olivia pulled out her corporate phone, risky but necessary, and started making calls. Michael watched the crowd, looking for threats, for patterns, for anything that didn't belong. Maya tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, are the bad men gone?" "Not yet, baby." "When will they be gone?" The question cut deep. "I don't know." She considered this, her young face serious. Maybe we should tell them you're not the fox anymore. Tell them you're just my daddy now. From the mouths of babes. Olivia finished her calls, her face grim. Chen accessed every file related to my schedule going back 6 months. He made copies of security protocols, building access codes, executive protection procedures. Everything Cross would have needed to plan the kidnapping. And now he's in the wind. My lawyers are freezing his accounts, flagging his passport. But if he's professional, he is. Then he's already gone. Michael ran calculations. Chen was the link between Cross and Olivia's organization, which meant Chen knew about Michael now. Knew about the new identity Olivia was trying to build. Could sabotage it before it even started. We need leverage, Michael said quietly. Something that makes us more valuable alive than dead. Something that makes the people hunting me back off. Like what? Like proof that the gray fox has information they don't want public. Like insurance. He looked at her. Your company does classified government contracting, right? Defense tech, secure communications. Some. Why? Because I need access. I need to pull files that certain people would prefer stayed buried. Files that implicate the people who used me, who gave the orders, who covered up the operations that officially never happened. His voice was flat, clinical. Mutually assured destruction. They leave me alone. I leave their secrets alone. Michael, that's blackmail. That's survival. For me and for Maya. He crouched down to his daughter's level. Baby, can you stay with Miss Sterling for a few minutes? I need to make a phone call. Don't leave me. I'm just going right over there. You'll be able to see me the whole time. He looked at Olivia. Keep her safe. 5 minutes. Michael walked to a payphone, ancient technology untraceable, and dialed a number he'd sworn he'd never use again. A number that connected to people who didn't officially exist. 3 rings. Then a voice digitally altered, "This line is not in service." The code phrase. Michael responded, "Checking the weather in Prague." Silence. Then, "This is an unsecured line. I'm aware. I'm also aware that you've been looking for me. Here's your confirmation I'm alive. I'm in New York, and I'm done running." Gray Fox. The voice lost some of its digital distortion, becoming almost human. You thought I was dead. I was trying to keep it that way. But someone leaked the information, and now I've got contractors crawling up my ass. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to call off your dogs. You're going to put out word that Gray Fox is dead, confirmed, no further investigation needed. And in exchange, I stay dead. I don't write memoirs. I don't give interviews. I don't testify to any congressional committees about operations that never happened. That's not how this works. That's exactly how this works. Because if it doesn't, I've got copies of every mission file, every operation order, every piece of classified documentation that proves what we did. Prague, Belgrade, Cairo, the Horn, all of it. And I've arranged for it to go public if anything happens to me or my daughter. A longer pause. You're bluffing. Am I want to test that theory because I've got nothing left to lose? You already took my life once. I built a new one, and I'll burn everything down before I let you take it again. The silence stretched. Finally, what do you want? I want to be left alone. I want my daughter to grow up safe. I want to make pancakes and go to dance recitals and be nobody. His voice hardened. And I want Marcus Chen. He's your asset, or he's working for someone you know. Either way, I want him found, and I want answers about who he's working for. Chen's not ours. Then whose is he? Another pause. We'll look into it. But Gray Fox, if you're lying about those files, I'm not. He was absolutely lying. He had no files, no insurance, just a bluff that had to work because there were no other options. You have 48 hours to get me answers and call off the search. After that, I start uploading. He hung up before they could respond. When he returned to Olivia and Maya, his hands were shaking. Olivia saw it, her eyes narrowing. What did you do? Made a play. Might work, might not. Michael, it's done. Now we wait. They spent the day moving through the city, never staying in one place long. A coffee shop in Chelsea. A bookstore in the village, where Maya found a picture book about dragons. A playground in Union Square, where she ran off some of her nervous energy, while Michael and Olivia sat on a bench and pretended to be normal. This is insane, Olivia said, watching Maya on the swings. We're hiding in plain sight while waiting to see if you successfully blackmailed the intelligence community. Pretty much. And you think it'll work. 60-40 odds, maybe 50-50 depending on who's really running point on finding me. Those aren't good odds. They're the best we've got. He looked at her. You can still walk away. Get on a plane. Put an ocean between you and this mess. And leave you and Maya alone. We've been alone before. Maybe that's the problem. Olivia turned to face him. You've been running alone for 3 years, hiding alone, making decisions alone. But you don't have to anymore. I'm here. I'm invested. And I don't abandon people who save my life. Before Michael could respond, Olivia's phone buzzed. She checked it, and her face went pale. What? My lawyers. Cross-posted bail. The words hit like a physical blow. That's impossible. He was charged with kidnapping, attempted murder. He has expensive lawyers and political connections. They argued he's a flight risk, but offered to post a $50 million bond and surrender his passport. Her hands were shaking. He's out, as of 2 hours ago. Michael's mind raced. Cross was out. Chen was in the wind. And somewhere, intelligence assets were deciding whether Michael's bluff was credible. Too many variables. Too many threats. We need to move again, he said, standing. Now. But even as he said it, his phone, the burner Sarah had given Olivia, which Olivia had given him, rang. Unknown number. He answered, prepared for threats. Instead, he heard Cross's smooth voice. Mr. Harris, or should I say, Gray Fox, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Oh, I think we do. See, I've spent the last 18 hours thinking about our situation. About what you cost me. About what I cost you. And I've come to a conclusion. Which is that we both have information the other wants. You want to know who Marcus Chen really works for. I want to know how you convinced the intelligence community to back off looking for you. Cross's voice was amused, almost friendly. So, here's my proposal. We meet, we talk. We make a deal that benefits us both. Not interested. Not even to protect your daughter. Because here's what I know, Mr. Harris. I know that Chen wasn't working for me exclusively. I know he's been playing multiple sides. And I know that one of those sides wants you dead so badly, they're willing to go through anyone who gets in their way, including little girls in unicorn hoodies. Michael's blood went cold. If you touch her, I'm not going to touch her. I'm going to help you protect her, in exchange for certain considerations. A pause. You've got 2 hours to decide. After that, I go to ground and you're on your own against people who make me look like an amateur. The line went dead. Olivia had heard enough to piece it together. He wants to deal. He wants leverage. What are you going to do? Michael looked at Maya, still playing on the swings, her laughter carrying across the playground. Innocent. Happy. Unaware that the world was closing in around them. I'm going to meet him, Michael said, and I'm going to end this, one way or another. The meeting was set for sunset at a restaurant in Midtown, public enough to prevent violence, private enough for conversation. Cross had reserved a back booth, and he was already there when Michael arrived, looking remarkably composed for a man who'd been shot less than 48 hours ago. You came alone. Smart. Cross gestured to the seat across from him. Drink. Information. That's all I want. Straight to business. I like it. Cross leaned back, wincing slightly from his shoulder wound. Here's what I know. Marcus Chen wasn't just my asset. He was also working for a private military contractor called Archon Solutions. Ever heard of them? Michael's jaw tightened. I've heard of them. Then you know they specialize in cleaning up loose ends. Operators who know too much. Witnesses who saw too much. Assets who've outlived their usefulness. Cross smiled. Like government assassins who were supposed to die in Prague but didn't. Archon wants me dead. Archon wants you confirmed dead. Big difference. See, when you disappeared, there were questions. Money unaccounted for. Operations that couldn't be properly closed out. Bodies that couldn't be properly buried. And as long as you're alive or might be alive, those questions remain open, which makes certain people very nervous. And Chen was tasked with finding you, confirming you, and eliminating you. Cross paused. But he also saw an opportunity. If the gray fox was alive, he was valuable, could be sold to the highest bidder. So Chen started shopping information, to me, to others, created a market for your head. Michael felt rage building in his chest. Where is he now? That's the expensive question. But I can find him. I have resources you don't, connections in places you can't access anymore. Cross leaned forward. Help me, and I help you. We both get what we want. What do you want? Immunity. From prosecution for the plane incident. Your testimony that I was coerced, that I was trying to protect you from Archon, that I'm actually the hero of this story. His smile was sharp. I know it's absurd. I also know your testimony carries weight. War hero saves CEO testifies about corporate raiders' secret heroism. The media would eat it up. My lawyers could work with that. You tried to kidnap me and kill 200 people. I tried to extract a business rival and leverage a deal. The violence was regrettable, but not intended. Cross's voice was smooth, practiced. And compared to Archon hunting you and your daughter, I'm the least of your problems. Michael wanted to put a bullet in Cross's smug face, but he was right. Archon was a bigger threat, more organized, more relentless. I'll think about it. You've got 24 hours. After that, I take my information and disappear, and you deal with Archon alone. Cross stood, dropping cash on the table. Oh, and Michael, if you're thinking about killing me to solve this problem, remember that I've uploaded everything to Deadman servers. My lawyers have instructions. If I die, if I disappear, if anything happens to me, the information goes public, including where to find you and Maya. He walked out, leaving Michael alone with impossible choices. When Michael returned to the safe apartment, a new one Sarah had arranged in Queens, Olivia and Maya were waiting. Maya ran to him immediately, and he scooped her up, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent like it was oxygen. Did you fix it? She asked. Did you make the bad men go away? Working on it, baby girl? Olivia's expression said she knew it wasn't that simple. Once Maya was settled with her picture book, Olivia pulled Michael aside. What happened? He explained. All of it. Cross's offer. Archon's involvement. Chen's betrayal. The impossible choice between dealing with the devil he knew or facing the one he didn't. When he finished, Olivia was quiet for a long moment. Then, what if there's another way? I'm listening. What if we go public, not with your identity, but with the threat? I'm a CEO who survived a kidnapping attempt. That's news. That's sympathy. I hold a press conference, explain that there are still threats against my company, that we're cooperating with authorities to uncover a broader conspiracy involving corporate espionage and private military contractors. Her eyes were bright with the kind of strategic thinking that had made her CEO. We control the narrative, force Archon to back off because the spotlight's too bright. And Cross, he can't leverage information that's already public. That puts you in the crosshairs. I'm already there, might as well use it. She grabbed her laptop, fingers flying. I'll have my PR team draft a statement. My lawyers coordinate with the FBI. We make this too big to handle quietly. Archon won't care about publicity. They'll just wait until the heat dies down. Then we don't let it die down. We keep feeding the story, keep the pressure on, and while everyone's watching the corporate drama. She looked at him. You and Maya disappear for real. New identity, new city, clean break. Without you. You don't need me anymore. I can give you the resources, the documentation, the money. But you need to vanish. Really vanish this time. Her voice softened. It's the only way Maya stays safe. Michael looked at his daughter, lost in her dragon book, and felt his heart crack. Because Olivia was right. The only way to truly protect Maya was to disappear. No connections, no ties, no CEO friend who could be leveraged against them. But Maya looked up at that moment, saw them talking, and asked, Is Miss Sterling coming for pancakes tomorrow? You promised. And there it was. The promise. The connection. The family they'd started to build in the wreckage of violence and fear. Michael made a decision. No, he said to Olivia. We don't run. We finish this. Together. Michael. You said you don't abandon people. Neither do I. So we go public, but we do it right. We expose Archon. We expose Chen. We make it so the only safe play for everyone is to leave us alone. He pulled out his phone. And I know exactly how to do it. The press conference was held 48 hours later at Vale Group headquarters. Olivia stood at a podium, cameras everywhere, and told the truth. Not all of it. Michael's identity remained protected, but enough. The kidnapping attempt, the ongoing threats, the discovery of corporate espionage within her organization, the connection to Archon Solutions and their pattern of targeting witnesses and whistleblowers. And standing beside her in a suit that felt foreign after 3 years in jeans and hoodies was Michael Harris. Not the gray fox. Not a ghost. Just a passenger who had helped stop a hijacking and was now helping expose the people who'd tried to silence him. The media ate it up. Within hours, Archon was trending on social media. Congressional representatives were demanding investigations. The FBI opened formal inquiries. And Marcus Chen, trying to flee the country, was arrested at JFK, with evidence linking him to Archon and Cross and a dozen other crimes. Cross, watching from his penthouse, realized he'd lost. His leverage was gone, his reputation in tatters. He called Michael one last time. You win. Congratulations. This wasn't about winning. Wasn't it? Cross laughed bitterly. You got your new life, your fresh start, your happy ending. So yeah, you won. And I lost everything. You lost because you couldn't accept losing the Nexus deal, because you let ego override common sense, because you threatened a 7-year-old girl. Michael's voice was cold. You did this to yourself. Maybe. But here's something to think about as you play house with your new family. People like us. We don't get happy endings. We get temporary truces. And someday, somehow, the past catches up. It always does. The line went dead. But Cross was wrong. Because 3 weeks later, Michael was standing in a kitchen in a brownstone in Brooklyn, not corporate housing, but a real home that Olivia had helped him buy, making pancakes for his daughter, while sunlight streamed through windows that didn't have bulletproof glass. Maya was at the table chattering about her new school, about the friends she'd made, about the dance class she wanted to try. Normal, happy, safe. And Olivia was there too, in jeans and a sweater, instead of her CEO armor setting plates, and laughing at something Maya said. The secret is buttermilk. Michael was explaining, flipping a pancake. Most people skip it, but it makes them fluffier. I'll take your word for it, Olivia said. I'm more of a order from the restaurant cook. That's not cooking, that's delegating. It's efficient. Maya giggled. Miss Sterling, you should learn to cook. Then you can make pancakes too. Maybe your dad can teach me. There was something in the way she said it, casual, but not that made Michael look up. Olivia was smiling, but there was vulnerability there. Hope. Yeah, he said quietly. I could do that. The pancakes came out perfectly. They ate together, the three of them, in a kitchen filled with morning light and the smell of maple syrup, and the particular warmth that comes from people choosing to be family, even when biology doesn't bind them. Maya declared them the best pancakes ever. Olivia agreed, and Michael, looking at his daughter's syrup-sticky smile and the woman who'd risked everything to save them both, felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. Later, after Maya had run off to play in her room, Olivia helped Michael clean up. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that comes from shared trauma and shared survival. "Thank you," Michael said finally. "For all of it. The job, the home, the second chance. Thank you for saving my life, for being exactly who Maya thinks you are. A dad who makes pancakes. A hero who chose love over violence, who chose family over fear." She dried the last plate, set it down carefully. "The board approved your official hire yesterday. Head of corporate security, 6-figure salary, full benefits. You start Monday. And you're sure no concerns about hiring the guy who was supposed to be dead?" "I'm sure, because you're not that guy anymore. You're Michael Harris. You're a father. You're someone I trust." She paused. "Someone I care about." The words hung in the air between them, full of possibility and complication, and the messy reality of people finding connection in impossible circumstances. "I care about you too," Michael admitted. "But Olivia, I come with a lot of baggage, a past that doesn't just disappear because we want it to." "Everyone has baggage. Mine includes a father who doesn't recognize me anymore and a company that's trying to eat me alive. Yours includes classified operations and people who want you dead. We're quite a pair." Michael laughed despite himself. "Yeah, we really are." "So, what do you say?" Olivia extended her hand. "Partners in business, and—" She hesitated. "And maybe something more when we're both ready." Michael looked at her hand, looked at this woman who'd offered him everything when he had nothing, who'd protected his daughter, who'd risked her empire to give him a future. He took her hand. "Partners." They shook on it, and the gesture transformed into something else, a hug, tentative at first, then stronger. Two people who'd survived the impossible holding on to each other and the promise of tomorrow. Maya appeared in the doorway. Her rabbit clutched tight and saw them. Her face lit up with that particular joy of children who understand more than adults give them credit for. "Does this mean Miss Sterling is going to stay?" she asked hopefully. "If she wants to," Michael said, looking at Olivia. "I want to," Olivia confirmed. "Good." Maya ran over, wrapping her arms around both their legs. "Because you're family now, and family stays together." And in that moment, in a Brooklyn kitchen with pancakes cooling on plates, and winter sunlight turning everything golden, Michael Harris understood what Cross had gotten wrong. The past didn't always catch up. Sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, you could outrun it long enough to build something new. Something better. Something worth protecting, not with violence but with love. He'd been the gray fox. He'd been a ghost. He'd been a weapon. But now, with his daughter's hand in one of his, and Olivia's in the other, he was finally just a man. Just Michael. Just home. Outside, the city hummed with its endless energy. Somewhere, threats still existed. Cross would eventually get out of prison. Archon might regroup. The intelligence community might decide his files were worth the risk. But today, in this moment, none of that mattered. Because today, Michael Harris made pancakes with his daughter and the woman who'd become family. Today, he was exactly who Maya believed him to be, a hero who came home. And that he thought, as Maya's laughter filled the kitchen and Olivia's hand squeezed his, was more than enough. It was everything.